there's a level of self-control that makes people look at you differently. And today, you'll discover exactly how to get there. Have you ever seen that person who just never breaks? Who says they're going to quit something and actually does it? While everyone else falls back into their old patterns by the third week, they stay clean. While everyone else makes excuses, they hold the line. And you know what people say about them? Man, that's not normal. There's an ancient system created by Zen monks in Japan that produces exactly this kind of frightening discipline. They call it Kaizen Hansei, the practice of deliberate reversal. And once you understand how it works, you'll never fall back into a bad habit again. But there's a catch. This system isn't for everyone. It requires you to confront a part of yourself you've been avoiding your entire life. But before I show you how it works, let me tell you something. If you've tried to break a habit before and failed, it wasn't your fault. You were fighting something you couldn't even see. Let's go. The story I'm about to tell you happened to a guy named Marcus. Smart guy. Good job, solid life. But he had one problem. He couldn't break his phone addiction. Every morning, he'd wake up and the first thing he'd do, before his eyes even fully opened, was reach for his phone. Scroll Instagram, check emails, watch random videos. 1 hour gone before his feet even touched the floor. He'd tried everything. Delete the apps, get an alarm clock, put the phone in another room. Nothing worked. Because by the third day, he'd convinced himself he needed it for work, for emergencies, for staying connected. The pattern was always the same. Monday, total commitment. I'm done with this. Wednesday, first negotiation. Just 5 minutes to check messages. Friday, complete surrender. Back to scrolling for an hour. Sunday, promises about next week. Sound familiar? Marcus tried willpower. He tried rewards. He tried accountability apps. Nothing stuck. Because he was fighting the wrong battle. He was trying to resist temptation. But you can't win a war of resistance. Temptation always wins eventually. Until the day he discovered why Zen monks can go decades without breaking their vows. And no, it's not willpower. It's something much deeper and much more effective. In Zen temples, there's a practice that seems strange at first, but changes everything. Kaizen Hansei, literally translated, it means continuous improvement through reflection and reversal. But here's what it really means. When a monk struggles with a particular weakness, let's say anger, they don't just try to stop being angry. They do something that sounds completely backwards. They deliberately practice the opposite behavior until the old pattern has nowhere to live. If they struggle with anger, they practice extreme gentleness, not just being calm, actively seeking moments to respond with kindness when anger would be easier. If they struggle with impatience, they practice deliberate slowness, not just waiting, intentionally choosing the longer path, the slower method, the patient response. You want to know what never happens in that temple? No monk tries to just stop being impatient. The question simply doesn't work that way. Why? Because they understand something you don't yet. Your brain doesn't respond to elimination. It responds to replacement. When you try to stop a behavior, you create a vacuum. And that vacuum will always get filled by the old pattern because your brain hates emptiness. But when you replace the behavior with its opposite, you're not creating a vacuum. You're building a new road. A neuroscientist at Stanford University who studied habit formation for 12 years discovered something revolutionary. When you practice the opposite of a bad habit, you're not just stopping the old behavior, you're rewiring the neural pathway itself. Your brain can't hold two opposite patterns in the same space. One has to die. That's exactly what Marcus did. He stopped trying to resist his phone. Instead, he practiced the opposite behavior: deliberate disconnection. Every morning at 5 a.m., he would sit in complete silence for 20 minutes. No phone, no music, no podcast, no book, just him and his thoughts. His girlfriend said, "You're being dramatic." His friend said, "Man, you're trying too hard." Perfect. Every person who questioned him became fuel. Every morning he wanted to grab his phone. He thought about having to admit he couldn't even sit still for 20 minutes, that he was so addicted he couldn't handle silence. Day 3 brought the first real test. The alarm went off at 5 a.m. Immediately, his hand reached for his phone. Old pattern, automatic. But something fundamental had changed. He'd told everyone he was doing this. He'd made it public. The thought of failing after 3 days, of admitting he couldn't sit in silence, was unbearable. He sat, 20 minutes of his mind screaming at him, "Check your messages. Something important might have happened. You're wasting time." But he sat. And here's where the real transformation began. Even with the public commitment, Marcus was still fighting himself every single morning. His body didn't care about his reputation. It wanted the dopamine hit, the scroll, the distraction. The public declaration ended the mental negotiation about whether to do it. But he was still waging war with biology every day. That's when he discovered the monk's second principle: non-negotiable timing. Every day you waste mental energy on the same question: when will I do this? Now or after coffee? Morning or night? This decision burns glucose in your brain that should be used for the actual practice. You're wasting fuel deciding when to drive instead of actually driving. Marcus chose 5 a.m. Not because he loved mornings or enjoyed watching sunrises. He chose 5 a.m. because the world was asleep. No texts, no emails, no notifications, no excuses. The time wasn't about optimization. It was about elimination. Eliminating every possible reason to do it later. The first week was brutal. His body fought it every morning. That's normal. Your body is a machine built on patterns, and you're forcing it to build a new one. It resists. Second week, something shifted. He started waking up 2 minutes before the alarm. His body had begun preparing for what now awaited it. Day 14, the alarm rang and he was sitting in position before his conscious mind even engaged. No thought, no decision, just movement. Here's what most people don't understand about fixed timing. It's not about finding the perfect schedule, it's about removing time as a variable. When you practice at different times every day, you're asking your brain to make a new decision each time. When the time is fixed, your brain can't argue with a constant, but Marcus discovered a new problem. His schedule was locked, but he kept changing what he did during that time. Some mornings, just silence felt right. Other days, he'd try breathing exercises. Sometimes he'd journal instead. His brain had found a new negotiating point. Instead of arguing about when, it started arguing about what. 20 minutes at 5 a.m. became reliable, but the practice itself was chaos. He'd eliminated the when, but not the what. And this is where the monk's teaching on form becomes critical, because it requires you to do exactly the same thing every single day until your mind completely surrenders. You think variety keeps things interesting? Variety is actually where consistency dies. Every time you change what you're doing, your brain has to make micro decisions. Should I do silence or breathing today? Should I journal or just sit? How long should I go? Every small decision is a crack where your old patterns leak back in. Marcus locked everything down completely. 20 minutes, same position, same breathing count, same room, same everything. His personal reversal period, 90 days of identical practice. His friends called him robotic. His girlfriend said he was getting weird about it. They didn't understand that weird was exactly the point. Third week, his mind declared war. Every morning, it screamed for variety. This is boring. You're not a machine. Mix it up or you'll burn out. Fourth week, something broke. Not his discipline, but his resistance. The voice of negotiation grew quieter. By week 6, he was halfway through his breathing count before he even realized he'd started. The practice was running itself. This is what people don't understand about breaking habits. It's not about willpower lasting forever. It's about repetition until willpower isn't needed anymore. Your body learns the new sequence, like a pianist learns a song. A researcher at MIT who studied behavioral automatization for 15 years explains it like this. When you repeat an action in the same context for approximately 66 days, the basal ganglia of your brain take over. The behavior becomes automatic. You're no longer deciding to do it. You're simply doing it. Day 35, Marcus got hit with the flu. Day 40, work trip, different city, different time zone. This is where the old pattern kicks in. Sick day equals rest day. Travel equals exception. This is where you gave up before, where everyone gives up. Because perfect practice requires perfect conditions, and perfect conditions don't exist. But the monks understood something about gaps that changes everything. They wrote that practice must continue without even a moment of interruption. Because in that gap, all your old patterns return. What saved Marcus when everything went wrong was understanding that practice doesn't require perfection. It requires continuity. The all or nothing mentality has killed more progress than laziness ever could. You tell yourself, if I can't do the full 20 minutes, why bother? If I can't do it perfectly, I'll wait until tomorrow. This thinking creates gaps. And gaps are where your old self crawls back in. Look at any elite performer and you'll see something people misinterpret. They have off days, but those off days are still movement. They're intentional, strategic, planned, never because they feel lazy, never because they don't want to practice. An off day allows them to come back stronger tomorrow. This is still progress toward the goal, but when you skip because you're tired, that's not rest, that's retreat. A river never stops flowing. During a drought, it may be a trickle, but it never stops. The moment it stops, it's no longer a river. It's a memory of where water used to be. Your practice is the same. The moment you create a gap, you're no longer practicing. You're someone who used to practice. Travel day arrived on day 40. Airport at 4 a.m., meetings all day, no quiet space anywhere. Marcus sat in the airport bathroom stall at 5 a.m. and practiced. People walking in, flushing toilets, announcements overhead. He sat there for 20 minutes doing his breathing count. People probably thought he'd lost his mind. Great. He wasn't chasing perfect conditions. He was maintaining momentum. Nothing was ideal. Everything continued. This is Kaizen Hansei. Practice reversing itself, replacing the old pattern completely. That's when people started to notice. Coworkers said he seemed different. Friends said he was becoming obsessive about this silence thing. Someone actually said his discipline wasn't healthy, that normal people don't act like that. When you hear these words, you know you're on the right track. Normal people get normal results. You're not trying to be normal. You're trying to be unbreakable. But here's what no one prepares you for: the unexpected obstacles you never saw coming. The things you can't plan for because you don't know they exist. Your kid gets sick in the middle of the night. Your car breaks down on the way to your practice space. Your boss keeps you late with an emergency. These are habit killers because you haven't pre-decided how to handle them. Every time an unexpected obstacle appears, you have to make a decision under stress. And that decision, in that moment of chaos, is where you'll choose the path of least resistance every single time. The obstacle wins because you're fighting a battle you didn't prepare for. Zen monasteries have operated for centuries without missing a single day of practice. Earthquakes, wars, floods. The practice continues. How they don't make decisions when obstacles arise. The answer already exists. When the meditation hall floods, they move to the dining hall. When the dining hall catches fire, they sit in the courtyard. There's no meeting, no discussion, no negotiation. The bell rings. The response is automatic. Marcus wrote down every obstacle that had ever broken his consistency and pre-solved each one. No quiet space, bathroom stall, closet, parked car. Sick? 2 minutes instead of 20, but the timing stays the same. Traveling, practice happens in the hotel room, the airport, wherever. Each scenario had its predetermined response. When X happens, I do Y. No thinking, no negotiating, just execution. The power of this isn't just maintaining the sequence. It's that you stop wasting mental energy on decisions. Your brain knows that no matter what happens tomorrow, the practice continues. This certainty changes your entire nervous system. A behavioral psychologist at Yale who studied decision-making for 20 years found that when you pre-decide your actions, you remove decision fatigue from the critical moment. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for willpower, remains intact to execute rather than decide. Day 70. Marcus's practice had become completely automatic. He would sometimes finish his 20 minutes not even remembering starting. His body simply moved through the sequence like a programmed routine. His girlfriend's family visited for a week. He practiced in the bathroom at 5 a.m. every single day. The practice continued because the answers were already written. Day 90. He completed his reversal period. 3 months of uninterrupted practice. But something deeper had happened. He wasn't the same person anymore. His phone sat on his nightstand every night. But in the morning, he didn't reach for it. Not because he was resisting, because the urge wasn't even there. The old pattern had been completely replaced. Friends literally told him, "Your self-control is scary." His response was perfect. Good. Because when your discipline makes others uncomfortable, you're finally operating at the right level. Your existence proves that everything they say is impossible is actually just uncomfortable. That's why they'll call you obsessive. That's why they'll say you need balance. They need you to slow down so they can feel better about standing still. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it because you've discovered the secret. Breaking a habit isn't about stopping something. It's about becoming someone who doesn't do it anymore. When you implement the Kaizen Hansei system, public commitment, fixed timing, identical practice, pre-solved obstacles, you're not just breaking habits. You're reshaping your identity. You stop being someone who tries to quit and become someone who simply doesn't do it. And when that happens, when that transformation is complete, people will look at you and think, how does he do that? And the answer will be simple. He doesn't. He is. The question remains, are you ready for this level of transformation? Because it's not about breaking a habit. It's about death and rebirth. The death of your old pattern. The birth of your new self. The Kaizen Hansei system won't make you a better person. It'll make you a different person. Someone others will look at and think, that's not normal. And when you hear those words, you'll know you've finally gotten where you need to be. Now, here's what I need you to understand. Everything I just shared with you, the reversal practice, the fixed timing, the pre-solved obstacles, all of it works. But there's something that determines whether you'll actually apply this or whether this becomes just another video you watched and forgot. That missing piece is consistency. You see, this system shows you how to break a habit. It gives you the framework, the method, the strategy, but breaking the habit once doesn't mean it stays broken. You need to be consistent with the replacement behavior. You need to show up day after day, week after week, until the new pattern is stronger than the old one ever was. I've seen it happen so many times. People learn the system, they implement it, they break the habit for weeks, maybe even months, and then life gets busy. Stress hits, circumstances change, and suddenly they're right back where they started. Because they broke the habit, but they didn't build the consistency to keep it broken. That's why what you need next isn't more strategies for breaking habits. You need to understand how to force yourself to be consistent, even when everything inside you wants to quit. Real consistency. The kind that doesn't depend on motivation, the kind that doesn't waver when things get hard, the kind that keeps the new behavior alive long after the 90 days are over. And that's exactly what the next video is about. It's called Force Yourself to Be Consistent. Because here's the truth. You can't just hope consistency will develop naturally. You have to force it. You have to train it deliberately, systematically, relentlessly. And in that video, I'm going to show you exactly how to develop the kind of consistency that makes broken habits stay broken. How to build the mental strength that doesn't crack under pressure. How to become the person who doesn't just break a habit once, but keeps it broken forever. Because breaking the habit is the first step, but consistency is what makes the change permanent. Watch it now, not tomorrow. Not when you feel more motivated, not when you have more time. Now. Because every moment you delay is another moment you're proving to yourself that you're not ready to change. And you are ready. You've made it this far. You've listened to everything I've said. Something inside you wants this. So don't let that spark die. Feed it with action, with consistency, with a decision to become someone who doesn't just know what to do, but does it every single day without fail. The next video is waiting, and so is the version of you that never breaks.